Has a simple mean comment or provocative attitude ruined your day? This happens to all of us, but here's something important. No one has the power to control your emotions unless you choose to let them. Now, imagine the feeling of maintaining serenity no matter what happens around you. Imagine spending the day so peacefully that nothing or no one can take your balance away. This is not something far away. It's the kind of change that happens when you learn to control your emotions. In this video, I will show you 10 Stoicism practices that will help you stop reacting impulsively, leave anger behind, and regain control over your feelings. Stoicism is not about ignoring your emotions or being cold. It's about learning to deal with them more wisely. You will learn to deal with criticism without losing your balance, to establish healthy limits and, most importantly, to let go of the grudges that hold you back. And before we start, like the video, leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. This helps YouTube understand that our content is valuable and sends it to more people, who will also learn to control their emotions. Let's go. 1. Understand that you have complete control. Imagine that you are spending a peaceful day, relaxing on the couch or simply sorting out the things you have to do. The feeling is calm, you are at peace with yourself. The atmosphere is serene, you are not in a rush, and everything seems to be in its right place. You're comfortable, relaxed, maybe even thinking about your weekend plans. Until suddenly, someone says something that bothers you. Maybe an unkind comment or an opinion you don't agree with. In an instant, your peace is disrupted, and you feel a wave of frustration or even anger rising within you. That moment of calm disappears and you think, why did this person ruin my day? But here's the simple and powerful truth. No one has the power to ruin your day without your permission. You are solely responsible for your reactions. The emotional reaction you have to a difficult, uncomfortable, or challenging situation is a choice. You have control over how you respond to any external stimulus. What the other person says or does can be compared to a button they try to push on you, but ultimately you are the one who decides whether that button will be pushed. You can decide whether you will let yourself be affected or whether you will keep your peace of mind intact. The world is always bringing challenges and unexpected situations, but how you react to them is completely your decision. And true strength, the one that really makes a difference in your life, comes from within. It is based on your ability to control your emotions and act reflexively, not impulsively. Controlling your response does not mean denying what you feel, but rather having the emotional discipline to choose how to react. It is not external circumstances that determine how you feel, but the way you choose to interpret and respond to them. Now, imagine being in a noisy city. Cars honking, people talking loudly, the constant sound of urban hustle and bustle that seems to never end. The noise is there, present and inevitable, but it doesn't invade your personal space. You choose not to let yourself be carried away by it. It's like wearing noise-canceling headphones. The sound may exist all around you, but you decide not to let it affect your inner peace. This is the essence of mastering your reactions. You live in a chaotic world where situations are not always ideal, but you still maintain your center and calm. This is the power of self-control. It is not the absence of challenges, but the ability to react in a balanced way when faced with them. True tranquility does not come from the absence of noise or external difficulties, but from your decision not to let yourself be carried away by them. Between the moment something happens and your response to that something, there is a space. This space is the place where your power lies. True freedom is not in controlling everything around you, but in choosing how you will react to it. You can choose calm over anger, understanding over impulsiveness. And by making this choice, you get closer and closer to your true essence, your true emotional freedom. Think about a common situation. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The immediate impulse may be anger, wanting to curse or complain. But what if instead you took a step back? In that brief time, you have a chance to stop and reflect. Is this anger really about what this person did, or about how I'm interpreting the situation? This simple moment of reflection, of slowing down the automatic response, already gives you the power to decide. You have the power to choose your reaction. And often the way others act has more to do with them than it does with you. They may be stressed, rushed, or simply not aware of the impact of their actions. When you understand this, you begin to realize that you don't need to get carried away by their negativity. This power to choose how to react does not mean ignoring your emotions. Anger, frustration, and disappointment are completely natural feelings. We all feel it. The secret is not to suppress these emotions, but to recognize that they do not need to dictate your actions. Every emotion that arises is an opportunity to reflect on it and decide how to act instead of reacting automatically. For example, when someone devalues your ideas at work, you may feel unmotivated, uncomfortable, or even irritated. But when you stop for a moment and reflect, you might ask yourself, is this about me or about the stress this person is going through? Many times, other people's reactions have nothing to do with you and everything to do with what they are dealing with internally. And in that moment of pause, you find the power to choose how this situation will impact you. A simple way to train this skill is to take a break whenever you feel triggered. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Anger? Hurt? Naming the emotion already breaks the automatic reaction cycle, and then ask, why am I feeling this? Is it about what happened or about the way I interpreted this situation? By asking these questions, you stop the automatic flow of feelings and begin to become more aware of your own response. And lastly, after reflection, choose your response based on your values, not momentary emotions. Imagine then the freedom to live your life without allowing the actions of others to steal your peace. An insensitive comment, a frustrating situation, or even the behavior of a stranger who seems ignorant. All of these factors lose their power over you when you become the master of your own reactions. You have two options. Allow others to define how you feel or claim power over your emotions and maintain your inner peace. The next time someone tries to get under your skin, remember this. Their behavior does not have the power to affect your peace. What really has power over you is your reaction. And it is in this choice for calm, in this power to consciously decide how to react, that you find true emotional freedom. By cultivating this skill, you not only find serenity in the midst of chaos, but you also begin to live with more purpose and confidence. 2. I wouldn't act like that. Free yourself from this expectation that seems to dominate our minds so much. Have you ever noticed how deeply frustrated we become when we expect people to act in accordance with our desires, and when they don't? Disappointment appears like a sudden shadow. It's as if suddenly, what once seemed like a peaceful day turned into a tangle of frustration. And then we thought, how can they be so insensitive? I would never do that. It's a feeling of impotence, as if we expect people to conform to our standards, and when they don't, we are overcome by emotional discomfort. The reality is that people act according to their own experiences and perceptions of the world, not our expectations. We try to control the behavior of others, as if this were something possible, but it's like trying to hold the wind with our hands. No matter how much you try to hold it back, it will always follow its own path, free and unpredictable. This is how people behave, influenced by their stories, their beliefs, their past experiences. When someone acts in a way that hurts or disappoints us, it does not reflect our essence or our worth. Most of the time, what we see is a reaction from people to what they know, to what they carry inside them, and not an action directed against us. Trying to change others, then, is like trying to force nature to shape itself into something it is not. This only creates frustration. Each human being has their own worldview, which is shaped by their history, the education they received, their own joys and traumas. When someone acts in a way that hurts us, it's often not about us. It's about what that person lived and about their own limitations. The pain we feel is often a response to our expectations that people should behave according to what we think is right or what we would like. But instead of expecting others to conform to what we want, how about accepting who they really are? This is the first step towards inner peace. Now, imagine an everyday situation like a work meeting. You're there participating in the conversation, and a colleague interrupts all the time. Your first reaction may be irritation. He won't let me talk. How can he be so disrespectful? But what if you saw it another way? Instead of getting frustrated, try to understand that his behavior is a reflection of him, not of you. He may be impetuous, he may not realize he is interrupting, or he may have an internal need to be heard. When you stop waiting for him to change, the stress disappears. This doesn't mean you need to accept disrespectful behavior, but rather understand that frustration comes from the expectations you have for the behavior of others, not the behavior itself. As William Shakespeare said, expectations are the root of all suffering. The more we expect from others, the more vulnerable we become to disappointment. When we can release these expectations, we protect our inner peace. By waiting less, we create a space where we can deal with situations in a more calm and balanced way. The secret is to understand that the only person we have control over is ourselves. We cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we react to them. Here's a simple but powerful exercise. Whenever someone irritates you, stop for a moment and ask yourself, what was I expecting this person to do? This helps identify the root of the frustration. Then ask yourself, is it realistic to expect her to act exactly as I imagined? Many times we will realize that what we expect has nothing to do with the other person's reality, but with a fantasy that we have created in our mind. Instead of trying to change her behavior, focus on how you can react more calmly while preserving your emotional balance. This does not mean tolerating abusive or disrespectful behavior, but rather choosing a reaction that empowers you, that does not allow others to define how you feel. Now imagine the freedom of freeing yourself from all these expectations we have created. The rude colleague, the friend who forgot you, the family member who didn't pay attention to you. None of them can steal your peace unless you let them. When you give up expecting others to act according to your wishes, you regain control over your reactions and start to live more lightly. You stop being a hostage to other people's actions and start living more authentically, aligned with what you really value. Accepting this does not mean tolerating toxic attitudes or giving up your values. It means understanding that your inner peace has a much greater value than trying to control something that is beyond your reach. The other person's behavior is beyond your control, but your peace and emotional balance are entirely under your responsibility. So the next time someone disappoints you or acts in a way that makes you uncomfortable, take a deep breath and remember, they are acting on their own experiences and perceptions, not on what I would like them to be. This is out of my control. At that moment, you rescue your peace, and in the end, what really matters is your choice of how to react. By freeing yourself from expectations, you not only gain freedom from people, but you also free yourself from the emotional weight you were carrying. You become lighter, more aware, and, above all, freer. 3. Stop fighting for the need to always be right. Think about the last time you won an argument. Maybe it was about something simple, like what's the best route to take to get somewhere? Or maybe it was something more serious, involving a friend or partner. Remember how, during the conversation, you felt that strong need to prove yourself right, as if your opinion was the only one that really mattered at that moment, as if your view of the situation was indisputable. It's almost as if, when you're challenged, something inside you stirs, wanting to be recognized, validated. The idea of being wrong didn't seem comfortable at all, did it? Often, this need to be right is linked to internal insecurity, as if, by being denied, our identity would be threatened. If someone challenges our opinion, we almost feel as if we are losing a part of who we are, and that is where the urgency to prove the other person is wrong arises. But what if, instead of insisting on your own vision, you opened up space to understand others? What if, instead of trying to convince everyone that your opinion is the only right one, you started looking for new perspectives and learning from the ideas that emerge around you? Have you ever stopped to think if being right is really worth more than having peace? When you focus on winning the argument, you end up fueling constant tension. Every word exchanged, every argument defended with more fervor, only increases the frustration, both for you and for the other person. This can generate distancing, a feeling of disconnection in the relationship. But what if, instead, you chose not to hold on to the need to be right? When you choose not to turn every conversation into a battle, relief comes immediately. you begin to realize that inner peace has a much deeper value than any victory in an argument. Let's look at a simple but very common example. Let's say someone makes an unfair accusation against you. The desire to defend oneself appears instantly. It is automatic, like a reflex. We want to show them they are wrong, correct the error, clarify the situation. But is it really worth spending so much time and energy trying to prove someone else wrong? Most of the time the answer is no. And most importantly, you begin to realize that by focusing on defending your truth, you end up giving even more power to the situation, intensifying the conflict. Sometimes it's best to let it go, not because you're wrong, but because choosing not to get involved in the dispute brings more freedom. Let's look at this another way. Your friend comes up with an idea, saying he has the perfect solution to a problem, but you completely disagree. The temptation to get confrontational is great, but what about a different approach? Instead of rebutting, you could respond calmly and empathetically. I understand your opinion and I respect it. Simple, direct, and most importantly, effective. This response disarms any possibility of conflict, keeps the environment light, and preserves peace, not only yours, but also that of the other person. You realize that it is not necessary to go to war with people just because they think differently. It is possible to disagree and still maintain harmony. Those who are too attached to their own opinions never grow, never evolve. As Lao Tzu teaches us, abandoning the need to be right does not mean giving up our principles. On the contrary, it means learning to choose your battles more intelligently. Instead of getting lost in unnecessary disputes, you begin to discern when it's worth asserting yourself and when it's wiser to give in. It's not about being passive, but about having discernment about what really matters in a conversation. Over time, you will begin to realize that letting go of this obsession with being right brings a lightness that previously seemed impossible. You gain a feeling of serenity, as if you have released an unnecessary emotional burden. You learn that you don't need to win every conversation. You don't need to be the center of every argument. What matters in the end is the peace you can cultivate within yourself. When you choose not to cling to the pride of being right, life becomes much more fluid, more peaceful. Remember one thing. True strength is not in winning every argument, but in knowing how to behave in them. True strength is the ability to maintain your peace, even when conversations can be challenging. When the temptation to prove something arises, stop and ask yourself, does being right bring me happiness, or is peace what really transforms? Peace is often the answer we are seeking. It frees us from a constant cycle of frustration and connects us with something much more valuable: emotional balance and respect for other people's perspectives. So start right now to ignore the need to always be right. Tell yourself, I prefer my peace. This simple comment has the power to transform the way you live. By declaring that peace is more important than pride, you demonstrate your true strength, the one that comes from within and does not depend on external circumstances. It is in this freedom that you find true emotional strength, the one that allows you to be lighter, more present and more at peace with the world around you. 4. Don't be defined by the words of others. Imagine a moment when you share something that really motivates you, something that comes from within, something that is genuinely important to you. Maybe it's a project at work that you've put time and effort into, or even an idea that came up in a conversation with a friend. You're excited, you feel like you're putting a piece of yourself into what you do, and you hope the response is positive. But then someone leaves a bad review. That unexpected word, like a bucket of cold water, cuts through the mood, and before you know it, your confidence plummets. What once seemed so right and important is now undone by a simple comment. But why does this happen? The reason is often that we give away our personal power to others. When we seek external approval, we place the ability to define our value in their hands. That criticism, no matter how small, has the power to make us question everything we believed about ourselves. The truth, however, is that no one has the right to define who you are other than yourself. And when you recognize this, when you understand that true power comes from within, your confidence becomes more solid, more authentic. When someone criticizes your work or ideas, the initial reaction is almost always defensive. The impulse is to respond quickly, justify your choices, or even feel discouraged, as if that opinion were a sentence of failure. But what if, instead of reacting immediately, you allowed yourself to take a break? What if, instead of being upset, you thought that that opinion was just that, an opinion, and not a reflection of your value as a person? This pause creates a space for reflection. It gives you a chance to breathe, process what was said, and act with more clarity. It's not about ignoring criticism, but about separating it from what really matters. Constructive criticism can be useful for your growth. What doesn't contribute, you can let go. This exercise in reflection is, in fact, an exercise in inner peace, something that the Stoics always emphasized. They taught us that we can't control everything that happens around us, but we can always control how we react to it. The way you respond to a comment, a criticism, a challenge, is a reflection of your inner strength, and this strength comes from within. By taking this break, you reaffirm who you really are, what really matters to you. You don't need to be indifferent to criticism, but you need to be able to act authentically without letting yourself be shaped by external judgment. Remember that your value does not depend on the opinions of others. It comes from within, from your perception of yourself. And when you realize this, your self-esteem strengthens. Lao Tzu reminds us, if you care too much about what others think, you become their prisoner. This teaching is powerful because it challenges us to free ourselves from the constant search for approval. It's not about disregarding others or living selfishly, but about understanding that what others think of us is not always relevant to our personal growth. True freedom comes from recognizing that we can listen, consider, but we don't need to let ourselves be dominated by other people's opinions. This brings an emotional lightness that is fundamental to living well, because when we are able to free ourselves from the weight of external expectations, we become freer to be who we really are. The next time someone challenges your trust, take that break. Ask yourself, will this criticism really define who I am, or can I focus on what's truly important? This simple reflection is the key to recognizing your own strength. It gives you the power to choose what to let in and what to let out. True, strength is not in avoiding criticism, but in knowing yourself and standing firm in your essence. When you stop allowing the words of others to define your worth, you create a space to be who you truly are without fear of judgment. And by doing so, you not only become more authentic, but you also preserve your peace. Inner peace is something that, in fact, no one can take away from you, because it comes from a deeper place, a place where you know who you are and what you are capable of achieving, regardless of the opinion of others. 5. Honor your own limits. Imagine a busy day full of commitments and responsibilities. The clock doesn't seem to stop, and the to-do list grows every minute. In the midst of all this, someone appears with a simple request, but one that could easily be resolved alone. Or a coworker throws a last-minute task onto your shoulders without even realizing how much of a burden it can take on you. What do you feel at that moment? Probably a growing frustration, right? Your mind starts to wonder, why is it so hard to say no? The impact of this on your day is immediate, and you begin to feel like you are losing control of your own time and space. The answer to this question is simple but crucial. To protect your peace, you need to set boundaries. Without limits, you allow others to define how you spend your time and energy. It's as if you are constantly giving in, giving yourself, without measuring the consequences, and in doing so, you are neglecting what really matters to you. Saying yes all the time means, in practice, saying no to your own well-being, to your needs, to your emotional health. The big lesson here is clear. You can't give your best to others if you don't take care of yourself first. If you continue to give without considering how much you have to give, the end result will be frustration and burnout. And no one, including you, wants to get to that point. Setting limits is, first and foremost, an act of self-respect. It's a way of telling yourself that you have the right to prioritize your inner peace and well-being. When you set clear boundaries, you're not only protecting yourself from overwhelm, but you're also creating space for healthier, more balanced relationships. When someone goes beyond these limits, the responsibility does not lie entirely with the other person. In fact, most of the responsibility lies with you for not clearly defending your borders. People can't guess what you need or want. If you don't communicate your needs, they simply won't be able to respect them. Setting limits is a form of respect, both for yourself and others. Imagine, for example, that a friend always asks you for advice until late at night. You love helping, but this situation, although full of good intentions, is unsustainable in the long term. Instead of giving in and feeling frustrated, you can simply say calmly, "I'd love to help you, but I need to rest. Can we talk tomorrow?" This is a firm and gentle way to protect your well-being without damaging your friendship. As Aristotle said, true freedom lies not in doing what you want, but in doing what you must. True freedom comes when you allow yourself to be true to yourself, to what you need to maintain balance and peace. Now, if you have difficulty setting limits, start with clarity and honesty. Express your needs in a simple and direct way. The clearer you are, the more people around you will be able to understand and respect your choices. For example, if you feel like you're being overwhelmed at work, say calmly, "I need some time for myself after work," instead of accusing someone by saying, "You always get in my way." The way you communicate can make all the difference. Clear communication is essential to keep boundaries respected and to avoid feeling overwhelmed. Once you've set your limits, the key is to be consistent. Consistency shows that you value your space, your time, and your mental health. As the saying goes, he who knows when to stop avoids falling into traps. When you respect your own limits, you are giving yourself a chance to regain your energy and avoid unnecessary stress. This creates a space for you to have more balance in your life, and at the same time, allow yourself to be present in the things that really matter. Limits are not barriers that keep people apart. They are foundations for healthier and more respectful relationships. When you honor your own limits, you create a space where you can revitalize yourself, reclaim your energy, and direct it toward what's truly important. Remember, your priority should be yourself, your peace, your time, and your well-being. When you learn to put yourself first, that's when you can offer your best to the world. The balance you achieve by taking care of yourself reflects on your ability to help others, be present in relationships, and live more lightly. 6. Detach yourself from the opinions of others. Have you ever felt bad after sharing an idea or opinion and being met with criticism or, even worse, indifference? The pain is real. That feeling of being vulnerable, opening your heart or your ideas to someone, and being rejected can make your self-confidence disappear in the blink of an eye. Your worth seems to be questioned, and for a moment you begin to doubt yourself. But instead of allowing yourself to be consumed by this pain, how about stopping for a moment and reflecting? Why do other people's opinions have so much power over you? The truth is that we have all fallen into the trap of seeking approval. The feeling that we need validation from others to feel good is common, but at the same time deeply limiting. It's like trying to grab a shadow. No matter how hard you try, you'll never succeed. This endless search will only leave you exhausted and unsatisfied. True freedom, on the other hand, comes the moment you decide to no longer submit to what others think. Each person sees the world through their own lens, shaped by their experiences and insecurities. What they say about you actually reveals more about who is talking than about who you are. Every criticism, every judgment is a projection of the other's vision and not a universal truth. When you pay too much attention to these external opinions, you end up giving away control of your emotions and allowing others to define your life. Its value is not for sale. No matter what anyone says or thinks about you, your value is unshakable. What people say or think does not have the power to diminish who you are. And when you realize this, it's like a weight is lifted from your shoulders. This is letting go, the act of freeing yourself from the need for external validation. Imagine the scene. You choose a new outfit and you feel great in it. You look in the mirror and feel confident, until when you ask a colleague what he thinks, he responds with a sarcastic comment saying that the outfit doesn't fit. The immediate reaction would be to let yourself be affected, perhaps even become insecure, or have your self-esteem shaken. But what if instead you simply realized that this opinion doesn't have the power to diminish your happiness? This is the key to detachment. When you learn not to let what others think about you affect your state of mind, you become immune to other people's judgment. As Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, said, "If you want to improve, accept being considered a fool." Although it is challenging, this detachment is actually true freedom. When you stop depending on external approval, you begin to live according to your true essence, without the constraints of other people's expectations. Growing, developing, and being authentic require courage. You will need to follow your own path, even if it doesn't please others. Seeking approval can paralyze your decisions, but only you have the power to walk your unique journey. And the beauty of this is that by embracing your path, you become stronger and freer to be who you really are, without needing to ask permission to exist. So how do you start letting go of other people's opinions? The first step is to question the relevance of these opinions. When something bothers you, ask yourself, why does this affect me so much? What authority does this person have over my life? This simple reflection can change the way you view criticism. Then reaffirm your own values, focus on what really matters to you. Your actions should be guided by your own goals, dreams, and values, not by the expectations others have of you. And when you face criticism, acknowledge it calmly, but don't allow it to consume your energy. Imagine these words like leaves falling into a river. They pass without leaving a trace, without affecting the current of their path. Every criticism that is not constructive must be treated in the same way. Don't get attached to what doesn't serve you. Always remember, if you seek approval, you will be a prisoner of people and their expectations. The next time someone tries to shake your confidence, ask yourself, am I living for this person or for myself? Choose to ignore what doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, your path is unique and doesn't need to be dictated by passing opinions. When you start living for yourself, you become more authentic, lighter, and ultimately freer. 7. The strength of responding without saying a word in moments of provocation. The temptation is almost irresistible. The blood boils, the heart beats faster, and the desire to react with anger seems to be the only way to defend your territory. The need to prove your point or respond in kind is so strong that sometimes you find yourself about to open your mouth without thinking. But what if, instead, you just said nothing? Silence, contrary to what many people think, is one of the most powerful responses you can offer. In the midst of a confrontation, he is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it is a demonstration of self-mastery and inner strength. What happens when you choose silence? Instead of getting carried away by provocation and the impulse to defend yourself, you put your inner peace first. This reflects wisdom. Imagine a situation in which someone tries to publicly humiliate you, perhaps with sharp words or cruel criticism. You could react angrily, argue, try to prove yourself right, but that would only feed the cycle of negativity. However, if you choose silence, you not only stop the anger from spreading, you also take away the person's power to affect you. You show her that her opinion has no impact on who you are, and that your peace is more important than any provocation. Silence, as Stoic philosophy teaches, is much more effective than anger. This is because anger, like a fire, needs fuel to grow. But silence is like cold water that quickly puts out that fire, without you needing to get involved in the fight. By choosing not to respond, you cut the cycle of hostility and preserve your emotional health. Silence acts as an invisible shield. It deflects attacks while also preventing you from being drawn into battle. Instead of letting the heat of the argument consume you, you remain calm, steady, and in control. Here are 3 ways to use silence as a powerful tool for self-mastery. First, wait before reacting. When someone teases you, don't feel pressured to respond right away. Take a moment to breathe, calm down, and allow the heat of the teasing to dissipate. This small interval of time creates a space for you to reflect clearly and decide whether it is worth responding, or whether, in fact, it is best to simply remain silent. Second, listen without defending yourself. Many times people just want to be heard, but they are not necessarily looking for an answer from you. When you listen without trying to justify your actions or defend yourself, you give the other person the space to express themselves without adding more fuel to the discussion. This does not mean that you agree, but that you choose not to engage in wordplay. And lastly, only speak when necessary. If you decide to speak, make sure your words are calm, direct, and objective. Don't get involved in endless debates. Use whatever is necessary to clarify or pacify, but never to fuel conflict. Always remember one thing: only speak if your words can actually improve the situation. Silence is not about suppressing your feelings or ignoring the problem, but rather about choosing the right moment to express them. Sometimes silence is the greatest sign of wisdom because it allows you to distance yourself from the situation and preserve your energy, waiting for the moment when your words have a real impact. How many times have we regretted something we said impulsively? Silence is a protection mechanism. He gives us the time we need to reflect, to think about our words and avoid regrets. The next time someone tries to provoke you, ask yourself, will my response make the situation better or just make it worse? By choosing silence, you protect your peace and demonstrate the control you have over yourself and the situation. Silence in this case is true wisdom. It is the ability to rise above the chaos around you and assert without saying a word, "My words do not affect me, my peace does." And so, you win the internal battle without needing to raise your voice, proving that true strength is not in defending yourself, but in remaining calm in the face of turmoil. 8. Transform anger with gratitude. Have you ever had one of those days when everything seems to go wrong? The clock doesn't tick, things don't go the way you planned, and frustration grows inside you. In moments like these, it's easy to get lost in anger and discouragement. It feels like the universe is against you, and the questions start to arise. Why do things have to be so difficult now? The urge to give in to anger and frustration is strong, but what if you tried to change your perspective? What if, instead of focusing on what's wrong, you decided to look at what's going right, no matter how simple it may be? Gratitude has a silent but transformative power. She can soften anger, undermine frustration, and even turn challenging situations into opportunities to find peace. The beauty of this is in its simplicity. We cannot feel anger and gratitude at the same time. When we connect with the positive, anger simply loses its impact. It doesn't magically disappear, but it loses space to grow. Gratitude has the power to redirect our energy, like a river that changes course when finding a new direction. The truth is that what you choose to focus on tends to grow. Small gestures of gratitude can make your energy shift. When you take the time to look for something to be grateful for, you are in a way breaking the cycle of anger. Imagine how powerful this can be. Instead of getting lost in the mistakes and difficulties of the day, you focus on something positive. It could be the simple beauty of the blue sky, the smile of a loved one, or even a moment of peace in the midst of chaos. These small shifts in focus are like a balm that calms the mind and heart. Cicero, Roman philosopher, reminds us that gratitude is the greatest of virtues because it is the mother of all others. When you practice gratitude, you not only erase anger, but you also strengthen virtues like patience, resilience, and the ability to focus on what really matters. Gratitude is a powerful and accessible tool for everyone, always within our reach, even in the most difficult situations. The key is to turn this exercise into a daily habit, a practice you can turn to whenever you need an emotional boost. The next time anger arises, take a deep breath and step back. Ask yourself, what can I be thankful for right now? Even when the day seems like a mountain of frustrations, there will always be something to be grateful for. At the end of each day, try to write down 3 things you feel grateful for. It could be something simple, like a good meal, or a pleasant conversation with someone. This exercise helps to change your mindset, to focus on the good even when the clouds seem dark. Furthermore, changing the way we see situations has a profound impact. When something doesn't go as planned, instead of holding on to the frustration, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? For example, if you receive a negative review, instead of letting yourself be consumed by anger or discouragement, try to change your perspective. I'm grateful to be able to learn from this feedback, even if the way I presented it wasn't the best. This does not mean accepting toxic behaviors, but rather maintaining control over how you react, preserving your inner peace. Gratitude, then, is not about ignoring negative emotions, but about choosing where to place your focus. It's an invitation to look at what we already have, rather than fixating on what's missing. It's not about pretending that difficulties don't exist, but about consciously looking away from what can elevate us, give us strength and balance. And even on a difficult day, where perhaps you didn't achieve everything you wanted, gratitude allows you to recognize that at least you didn't lose your health, your peace, and your own sense of direction. 9. Find the value in criticism. It's natural to feel uncomfortable when we receive criticism. They can often take us by surprise and generate a feeling of vulnerability. But if we can look at criticism with an open mindset, we can turn it into a powerful tool for growth. Instead of seeing it as an obstacle or a threat, we can use it to challenge and improve ourselves. Imagine that you are about to give an important presentation at work or school, and after the event, a colleague offers feedback pointing out several flaws. The immediate tendency is to want to defend yourself or ignore what was said. But if you pause and reflect for a moment, you may discover that there are valuable lessons to be learned. What really needs to be improved? What can I do differently next time? This simple adjustment of focus from defending to learning can turn a negative review into an opportunity to improve your skills and become more competent at what you do. As the philosopher Lao Tzu wisely reminds us, knowing others is intelligence. Knowing oneself is wisdom. When we face criticism with humility, it becomes a mirror that reflects aspects of ourselves that we often cannot see on our own. Criticism can show us blind spots, undeveloped skills, or even behaviors that are no longer aligned with our values. However, it is important to remember that not all criticism is constructive or well-intentioned. Some come from places of envy or misinformation, or from people who, for whatever reason, don't have the desire to see us grow. The key is knowing how to discern whether criticism comes from a place of genuine care or a desire to help us. We should welcome it with gratitude. Otherwise, it is wise to simply let it pass without giving it space to affect us. Here are 3 suggestions for dealing with criticism in a clearer and more balanced way. The first is simple but powerful. Take a deep breath before reacting. This small amount of time helps you avoid impulsive responses and gives you space to think more clearly. Anger or defensiveness may be automatic reactions, but reflection brings the opportunity to respond in a more mature way. Second, evaluate the source of the criticism. Ask yourself, who is offering this feedback? Does this person have the knowledge and experience to help me, or are they just projecting their own insecurities onto me? The answer to this question may change the way you view what was said. And finally, always try to find the lesson. Even when criticism seems harsh or unfair, there is something you can learn from it. Ask yourself, what positive can I extract here? What is this person showing me that I haven't realized yet? Now imagine that someone in your family criticizes your life choices. It could be an important personal decision, such as your career, your relationship, or a new project. Instead of reacting angrily or starting an argument, you decide to respond with maturity and respect. By remaining calm and in control of the situation, you not only protect your inner peace, but also turn criticism into a boost for your own growth. As Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, said, "No person is free who does not own himself." This means that by mastering your reactions to criticism, you maintain control over your emotions and choices. Instead of being dragged by the opinions of others, you are able to reflect and use criticism as an opportunity for personal evolution. When we receive criticism, we tend to worry about the judgment of others, but the real question is, what can I learn from this? This simple question changes the way we face the challenges that arise. When we manage to transform criticism into a moment of learning, we become stronger, more balanced, and more prepared to deal with life's adversities. Criticism, then, is not something to be feared, but something to be accepted with humility, as it is in it that we find the seeds of our growth. By embracing criticism with serenity and gratitude, you open yourself to personal evolution. The discomfort it causes is, in fact, the fertile ground where learning can flourish. Turning criticism into an ally rather than an enemy, is one of the greatest ways to develop emotional resilience and a deeper connection with who you really are. 10. Master the art of letting go. Imagine you are holding a hot coal ready to throw it at someone who has hurt you. You feel the intensity of the heat in your hands, and your mind begins to prepare for the exact moment to throw the ember. But as you wait for the right moment, the ember burns stronger and stronger in your palm. Anger and resentment work exactly like this. At first, you think you are hurting the person who hurt you, but in reality, you are hurting yourself more than the other person. The longer you hold that fire inside, the more it will consume you. True strength is not in feeding that hate, but in having the wisdom to let go of the ember and allow your hand to heal. Letting go of anger and resentment doesn't mean you have to forget what happened or push past the pain. This is not about ignoring what was done or allowing the other person to act with impunity. It's about releasing the emotional weight that keeps you stuck in the past, creating the necessary space to live the present in a lighter way. When you choose to keep anger alive within you, you are keeping your life stuck in a cycle of pain and repetition. As said before, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and waiting for someone else to suffer. This is meaningless, and the only person you harm is yourself. The way you react to what hurts you defines your journey. Every time you release a negative emotion, you take another step in your evolution. Now, take a moment and think. Is there something or someone who has hurt you recently? How much time did you spend dwelling on this pain? How many hours or days did you spend thinking about what you could have done differently or imagining ways to get revenge? Anger silently consumes our energy, but by letting go of it, you interrupt this vicious cycle and free yourself, ready to move forward in a lighter and fuller way. This is liberating. The first step to emotional freedom is the choice to stop carrying the burden of hurt. Now, imagine a situation at work. You have a brilliant idea, something that could change the way the team works, but a colleague takes your idea and presents it as their own. He gets all the credit, and you feel a profound injustice. You could spend weeks dwelling on this hurt, demanding an apology or even trying to get revenge. Or you could decide to give yourself no more space than necessary for this moment. Your peace does not depend on the other's attitude, but on your own reaction. By releasing this hurt, you protect your energy and focus on what really matters. Your growth, your new opportunities, and your ability to reinvent yourself. The value you have is not defined by moments like these, but by the way you stay true to yourself and move forward. As Lao Tzu teaches us, when I give up what I am, I become what I can be. Letting go is a process of acceptance. It's not just about leaving anger or resentment behind, but about releasing other emotional burdens that weigh us down. Perfectionism, the fear of failure, the need to control everything around us. When we accept life as it is, with its imperfections and uncertainties, we find freedom. Freeing yourself from unrealistic expectations about yourself and others is a vital step towards living with more peace and less anxiety. Here are 3 steps to begin practicing this emotional detachment and release. The first is to acknowledge your feelings without judging them. Sometimes we try to suppress or ignore negative emotions, but this only causes them to build up. Instead of criticizing yourself, allow yourself to feel what you are feeling. This is already a first step towards healing. The second step is to reframe the situation. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? This simple exercise changes the perspective on what happened. And finally, redirect your attention to the present moment. Often when we are stuck in the past, we miss what is happening now. By redirecting your focus to the here and now, you begin to release emotional weight. Think of it as letting go of a balloon. The longer you hold it, the more it resists. But when you let go, it rises to the sky and you feel lighter. Marcus Aurelius, the great philosopher-emperor, reminds us of something profound. Do not be troubled by what is beyond your control. We often get caught up in the things we cannot change, such as the mistakes of others or the injustices we have suffered. But by asking yourself, is this worth losing my peace over? The answer will usually be no. And if you just let go of that, you realize that peace doesn't have to be negotiated with anyone. True emotional strength comes when we know when to let go, when we let go of what we cannot control. It makes us stronger. The more you practice the art of letting go, the lighter you feel, and the more true peace will be within your reach. True strength lies in not clinging to the past, but in living the present with wisdom and serenity.